Ma'am,
Yes.
evening. Is that alcohol I smell?
Yes. Oh, okay.
Howdy, everybody.
We're popping on to talk about alcohol and weight loss.
Boo!
Don't wake them up.
Yeah.
Jack's fitness program.
We're at the point where we're ready to start taking folks. We'll throw a link up, and basically it's a free 30-minute call where we talk about your goals and the ways that I believe I can help you, and decide if you actually want to work with me. Because why would anyone want to do that?
The main thing that I said we had to do this live.
Yes, you did say we had to do it live because apparently I'm boring without anybody to play it off of.
No, that's not true. I just wanted to talk, I wanted the topic. I wasn't talking about us together. I was talking about the fact that we need to talk about this.
Yeah, so can you consume alcohol while you're pursuing, a calorie deficit, a weight loss plan? And the answer is, well,
yes.
Yes.
I wanted, and that's so I'll do a little thing and then he'll share the actual science. But so in the past, when I've been trying to cut weight, I usually have just totally cut alcohol out, which it's fine, it's doable, but I enjoy having a glass of wine, a draft beer, occasional margarita. One of the things that I was like, oh, we got to talk about this because in the last 10 weeks, I've lost 10.6 pounds, but I haven't cut out all my alcohol. I probably drink a bottle of wine a week.
Yeah, like library parking lot amounts right before church.
Oh, I don't even know what that means.
We're talking about so let's clarify some stuff. So when we talk about alcohol consumption when you're pursuing weight loss, we're talking about light to moderate amounts of alcohol, clearly defined. On the light side, one drink per week for women, 2 drinks per week for men would be the absolute light you can go. Beyond that is basically not drinking at all.
I've been probably having 4 drinks a week.
Yeah, and then
I don't know.
And then moderate falls into that 7 to 14. And it might be a little bit more stringent based off recommendations. I'm not completely up to date on it, but basically for women, 1 drink per day, and men 2 drinks per day is kind of that recommended consumption, if at all. I think it's appropriate at this point that we talk about drinking. If you're out there watching and that you think you might have an alcohol problem,
oh yeah,
by all means, I would encourage you to seek help. There's nothing wrong with getting help. In fact, it's probably one of the bravest things you can do. The world's better with you in it, and a lot of people love you no matter what. So please, by all means, if you do struggle with alcohol, you can go ahead and get help because so you're better for it. Trust me. But anyway, moving on to the topic.
Yeah, no, that's important. Yeah. I just wanted to bring up drinking and things I've learned in the last 10 weeks that I didn't really know before.
Sure.
That I've learned from Jack in doing this, that I was like, ooh, we should talk about this because it's helpful. Because for someone who does enjoy having an occasional beer, glass of wine at night, for me, it's I enjoy having a glass of, the boys just went to bed. Jake's been sick. There's just a level of oh, it's nice to sit, have a glass of wine and read a book. So anyways, we talked about it, 3 specific things that I didn't know beforehand that I've learned in the last 10 weeks about alcohol and weight loss.
Was this my cue?
Yeah, it can be.
Okay.
Or do you want me to say one and you say one?
No, I mean, you go.
Okay.
I'm just here to nerd out. You get to tell.
Well, okay, so let me bring up when.
Sure, when.
When
should you consume alcohol?
When should you, meaning time of day?
Basically, yeah. So
it matters.
All right, so alcohol, let's talk about the alcohol in general. So as far as macronutrients go, we're talking proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And proteins and carbohydrates are around about equal at 4 calories per gram, fats being the outlier at the whopping 9 calories per gram. And then alcohol slides in between those two at 7 calories per gram. However, doesn't necessarily qualify as a macronutrient for one specific reason. in that space, well, I mean, it's a little bit more, but stop. But ultimately, unlike proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, which your body has the ability to manipulate and store, your body doesn't have the ability to store the calories from alcohol. So it has to be burned. It has to be utilized in energy. And so it does that through raising your body temperature, increasing your heart rate. Obviously, activity does it, and increasing your respiratory rate. So how does that tie into when you should consume alcohol? Well, ultimately, you consume it several hours before you plan on going to bed because your body raises its body temperature, increases your respiratory rate, increases the heart rate in order to burn the excess calories that you get from alcohol because it doesn't have a means to store it. So that actually interferes with your ability to fall asleep. So if you're feeling warmer, you're breathing heavier, and you can feel your heartbeat as while you're laying down, like trying to get sleep, it's going to interfere with getting to sleep. So that's one of the big reasons where timing comes into place when you consume alcohol, basically in general, not just on a weight loss diet.
Right.
But like overall, like if you don't get a lot of good sleep and you like to get more sleep and you still want to imbibe, by all means, try to do so that you've got 3 to 4 hours between your planned bedtime and your last drink. And again, this is like moderate consumption. If you're really going after it, it's not going to matter. Like your body is going to be putting in work to get rid of the alcohol.
Imbibe.
I just did. People say it all the time.
If you say imbibe, let us know in the comments. Anyways, so the thing I have changed is that instead of like waiting till like 9 o'clock at night to have a glass of wine, I typically like I waited.
She starts at noon.
I don't.
Yeah.
Thanks. I usually have this like closer to like right after dinner or something like that. Like, or I don't wait until 9 o'clock at night to have my glass of wine now. Like I used to like wait and wait and wait, right? Like make sure the boys are asleep, that type of thing. I just try to have it earlier in the day. Or for example, like if it's a weekend day, it's like, well, if I really want to have a beer, have the beer like noon or like 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. versus like waiting till like 8 o'clock at night.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's the first thing that I really have like changed. The second thing is I can now tell you, like, I can eye a glass and be like, oh, that's a 5 ounce pour, or oh, that's like 8 ounces of wine. And the main reason I can do that is because I've been tracking and weighing it. So just the switch in like not just being like, ooh, I'm gonna have a glass of wine, and then the glass is like the bottle of wine. So that's been the other what? I'm just being honest.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Okay.
This happens with other things that you weigh and measure too, as you like go through and you track your calories, you're tracking your consumption of foods. You can find that you'll start to like be able to spot on, identify particular things you use day in and day out or repeatedly as part of your diet because they're your favorite or they make things easier for you. Yeah, you'll be able to like grab a knife and scoop out some peanut butter and then go to weigh it and like bang, it's like 14 grams or whatever, or a tablespoon or something along those lines. It's kind of like the way kids learn to speak. They just suddenly start doing it, and then they never stop. But it becomes innate that you can identify the amount of things that you use often,
right?
By eyeballing it just through the sheer repetition of it without even thinking about it. So it's actually kind of cool, and it does give you the added benefit as you start to take off the training wheels and maybe start eating out more.
Yep.
Or going to parties, going to gatherings or what have you, and things are available. You can like see some things and like generally
since you're not packing your scale in your back pocket.
Somebody doing?
No.
Oh, did you see me?
No.
I'm kidding. Like no. So you can gain more confidence if you put it into practice. And again, this is like putting it into practice so that you can adapt and continue to eat the way you normally ate, just be more cognizant of what actually is making it in your mouth and down in your stomach and then into your body. So
like I went out with friends Thursday night, like a group of moms, and had a glass of wine, had a beer, but it was really easy because when the waitress brought me my wine, I was like, oh, like that is clearly 5 ounces versus, because it didn't say necessarily, and you never know for sure, but it's one of those things you just begin to be able to see because at home, I saw even with this glass, which I love my little like skeleton hand, with this glass, I still weigh it at home, right? Like, because I think that's one of those things that there's no reason not to, because I'd just rather be sure about how many ounces I am drinking because I'm tracking and I want to stay consistent on my plan. And I know that if I'm tracking and being consistent, then in the long run, I can still consume it reasonably within my plan.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
So,
exactly. And there's other, and I'm sure I mentioned it before. Like, I utilize the Chronometer app, and anybody who's going to work with me will do so as well.
yeah, you get this like cool upgraded version.
It's a free app, and then if we're working together, I invite you to what I utilize, and it gives you the gold upgrade, and I get to look at everything you do or don't do, depending, if you're honest. But
the coolest thing is that he can enter things in for you.
Yeah. So, and in that, it's like if you're struggling to hit a macronutrient, I could pop in and say, hey, why don't you eat this? And then also
and he can actually add in all the
add recipes and
the recipe
like
and
too.
things.
So it's a cool add-on. But back to the alcohol piece.
Yeah. Okay. There was a third thing I
What
learned.
was your third thing? Is it the fat loss thing?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? All right. So I'll just expound upon it.
If I think of it.
All right. Let's get boring and nerdy. All right. How's that? What? All right. So when we talk,
I'm married to this.
So when we talk about alcohol, right? And I mentioned again, 7 calories per gram, and that's based off the alcohol by volume. Honestly, using a tracking app gives you the benefit of getting a roundabout idea of the calories of something. So if we're talking, your typical beers, they generally already exist in there to also account for the alcohol by volume. And it's when you go rogue, like drinking your buddy's moonshine, that you might have to go ahead and work on it, but on your own. But that being said, when we do opt to still consume light to moderate amounts of alcohol while pursuing a weight loss goal, you need to remember not only the impacts to sleep, because sleep is uber important for recovery, and your body is going to be impacted by you eating at a calorie deficit compared to what it's used to. So that is going to induce extra stress into your system because your body is going to believe that things are becoming scarce, i.e., foods, calories, nutrients. So you will get some added, stress hormones put into the mix. So your sleep is vital to help even you back out. So alcohol can impact that and cause a problem. The other piece, fat loss, sleep is essential to fat loss. The other piece.
Why? What's the short answer?
The short answer?
Yeah.
Is when you're sleeping, you're undergoing oxidative phosphorylation, which utilizes fat to produce ATP.
Okay, but what's the answer that
you're burning fat when you sleep?
Okay.
But
the answer that the rest of the humans here would understand.
I just told you, you do burn fat when you sleep.
Okay.
The other aspect.
And alcohol stops that.
Alcohol interferes with it, but alcohol interferes with basically calorie burning, but in particular, fat loss, because, priority goes to alcohol, because again, your body cannot store it, right? Remember, no matter how much you enjoy alcohol, you're still introducing a poison to your body, whether it's to relax, to reflect, but that poison hits your body. Your teeth aren't purple yet. But that poison hits your body, and your body is like, let's get rid of it and start breaking it down. And so the organ that does most of that work is the liver. And then the first 2 byproducts of alcohol metabolism are also poison. So acetaldehyde and further broken down into a ketone-like molecule.
You're losing me.
Okay. Basically, alcohol ends up being a poison, so your body wants to get rid of it. So it kind of just shuttles fat into fat cells. It shuttles glucose into glycogen into your muscles and liver. Basically, the calories you intended on burning kind of get put on hold because alcohol needs to be taken care of. So you need to keep that in mind when you drink and how much you drink. So again, staying light to moderate, not that big of a deal. But if you start to really go whole hog, can be problematic and significantly impact your weight loss goals, or mainly your body composition goals, not necessarily your weight loss. Because again, we want to lose body fat, not muscle mass.
Right. I did think of my third thing was just that I'm much more aware of just the calories of what I'm consuming from an alcohol standpoint.
Sure.
That I didn't know before, which is relevant simply because if I know that I have these goals every single day to hit in terms of my proteins, carbs, fats, that type of thing, there's levels where I can adjust what I'm eating in the day, knowing that it's I'm going to have a glass of wine.
Yeah. Other little tidbits or food for thought. when it comes to alcohol consumption is it does, lower your judgment and your inhibitions. And so,
You can eat more.
yeah, so you may be inclined to eat more after a drink or two. You may not care as much as you did when you were completely sober. So it could result in you making decisions that would totally throw you off of your planned nutrition for that day. I know I'm like the fun police.
Like all these things said, like why am I still like enjoying a glass of wine? Part of it is because
you enjoy a glass of wine.
I enjoy a glass of wine, right? Like there's something to be said for the goal of this. We've talked about it from the beginning is a mindset lifestyle shift, not so much like a diet, right? Like I want to lose weight, maintain weight, be it my goal without making, like we talk about education, not elimination. So like without eliminating anything that I truly enjoy having as being a part of my routine when it comes to food. And so it's like, I would much rather do that and keep it reasonable. When I have like a few glasses of wine throughout the week, that's more normal for me versus like totally cutting it out. And then it's like, there's no cheat day here kind of thing. Like you're not like eating good for 6 and then on day 7 you go like hog wild crazy
and then blow out 3 of the 6 days that you
right. And that also isn't really healthy from a mental standpoint, right? Like that can only lead to further disorder. The goal is health, not from full circle, right? Holistic health.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, I could probably go on a long time about things that you see on social media, basically, where an individual will pop into your feed and say, hey, I'll help you lose weight without counting calories or macronutrients. All you do is cut out refined sugars, processed, and the list is so long that ultimately you will lose weight without counting calories because you're not allowed to eat anything. And the things that you are allowed to eat, you don't even like. So then once you reach your weight loss goal, you can't wait to get back to eating the things that you actually enjoyed. And then the weight comes back on. And be like, I don't know what happened. Like I wasn't even counting calories and I lost weight. And it's like, well, I can only have so much bone broth and raw liver before I just can't take it anymore. Maybe about 12 weeks, right? When we look at like if I would tell you right now, if we were working together like with Stephanie, and it's like if I had to pick 3 things that you had to give up, and like I was not non-negotiable, alcohol might actually be one of them. But then again, that's like my opinion because there's like there's impacts to it. When we talk again, this is a holistic health thing. This isn't about like me and what I'm saying to you about like, hey, I'm offering this coaching program, holistic health wise. If we look at alcohol and the consumption of alcohol, alcohol is used to kill bacteria, and that's both good and bad bacteria. So it does have an effect on your gut biome. It does have an effect on your gut-brain axis. It does have an effect on hormones. So it does cause an increase in cortisol and is exacerbated by sleep issues that can occur from alcohol consumption. It has an impact on testosterone levels, both in men and women. And women do have testosterone, a small amount, but it's still there, and it is essential to build muscle mass, which is good for maintaining higher, base metabolic rates. The calories
you burn more. Calories.
Yeah, the calories you burn just kind of like by simply existing. The more lean tissue you have, the higher that is, and the better it is for you.
Which means you can eat more.
Which means you get to eat
more.
Not
get fat.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a whole, like I'm again from the perspective of somebody who has an issue with alcohol. I'm not going to tell people not to drink. If you enjoy it and you can do so responsibly, by all means, have at it. But at the same time, depending on how quickly you want to reach your goal, it could slow you down. So take that into account when you're deciding whether or not you want to include alcohol as you adjust your nutrition plans to support, your goal weight, your goal body composition, and the timeline that you want to do it. If you feel like I've got a year to lose 25 pounds, which is reasonable, and it's slow and it's effective and it's going to help maintain
long-term actual success.
It'll help maintain the lean muscle mass that you have, and hopefully, and studies show that that longer, slower pace is maintainable because you're not making as much drastic adjustments to your nutrition plan to support your lifestyle. Then like have at it, and like to a degree, it might even be painstakingly slow. So you have to kind of manage that piece, but that kind of rate does support a few beers a week or a couple of glasses of wine or a martini or whatever it is, whatever it is your poison of choice. See what I did there? Poison. Remember I mentioned that. But there's other aspects to alcohol. It's not all bad, but it does give you an added hurdle in the road as you go to weight loss. And ultimately, it's up to you if you value it that much, as to whether or not you include it as you go down the road. Again, and it's doable. but totally
Yeah.
doable.
So the three things that I changed was when I consume it,
Early in the day, so it doesn't interfere with your sleep.
tracking it.
Tracking it, so you're able to measure it, and basically got to the point where you can adapt, or you can identify
You can identify,
by
right?
sight when around about, at least it's less than, hey, give me my money back, or more than, hey, I just want,
Yeah.
but ultimately, hey, I got a roundabout idea of how much I consume without
And
having,
then I plan for it.
and then planning for it. Yeah.
So those are the three things that make a difference. And that's where I am going to plug working with him has been helpful, because I wouldn't have, it's one thing to try to do it yourself. It's a whole other thing to receive feedback or be able to ask questions as you're doing it. So then you are more successful faster. And that's more encouraging, I think, when it comes to health and weight loss, because it can be really hard to be doing a bunch of things and not see the needle move forward.
Yes, yeah, it can be. So as you go forward and you kind of like see things, and people are getting into your social media feeds and whatnot, and they're saying things that sound too good to be true, or they, point to a study that flashes on the screen real quick and then disappears and says, "Oh, like this study says this." Like, be wary of those things. A lot of folks are cherry picking stuff out of studies that support what they're trying to sell you, and a lot of folks are using like a one-time study,
Right. That wasn't even really studying that.
or one of like the least reliable forms of a study,
Right.
to point something out, or the subjects of the study don't even apply to you.
I think we probably covered it.
Yeah, no, I've already
Okay.
gone on and
If
on.
you have a question that we didn't answer, oh goodness,
Have fun out there.
put your question in the comments and we'll circle back to it.
Yeah.
And if you want info on Jack's program, just ask.
Yeah.